Spoilers for South Park: The Return of COVID ahead. South Park's COVID saga has finally concluded with the climactic hour-long event, The Return of COVID. Rounding out the storyline set in the future with some time travel shenanigans, we were given a look at the adult versions of a few more beloved characters that were absent in the previous installment, which means, in accordance with our previous TIMESKIP video, we have a few more fates to break down. But not just with these additional characters, but the revised futures of the gang due to their alterations to the timeline. The good and the very, very bad. With all that said, let's dive in. Previously, all we knew about Butters in this future was that he was Kenny's right-hand man, instrumental in the world-renowned scientist cracking time travel. This led me to speculate that Butters would have become a Cletus Cassidy-type character, but the reality turned out to be worse. Way worse. Butters is a NFT bro, the biggest in Colorado. You see, Butters has always been grounded by his parents throughout the series. It's been a running gag as long as They Killed Kenny has been. But if you look back at the pandemic special, you may remember that Butters did not handle the shutdowns well at all, accumulating into him and Stan breaking into Build-A-Bear. This seems to have indirectly triggered Butters into getting grounded permanently, forced to be inside by his overprotective yet extremely abusive parents. However, once everyone got a little more comfortable in 2021, Steven and Linda went to a movie in Denver and never came back, leaving Butters trapped in his room for 16 years. At least, figuratively. Left in solitude with an iPad, Butters fell down the same rabbit hole many others did during the pandemic. Cryptocurrency, learning about and trading NFTs, and getting others to trade NFTs as well. Butters had found his craft, using the charm of his wholesome personality to get countless individuals on board. He once escaped his confinement and got thousands to invest in under a few hours. It turns out he did have a superpower all this time, pitching things to people in an extremely convincing manner. Now Butters is clearly internalizing his abandonment issues created by his parents. He's driven to become as rich as possible to prove he has value, substituting love with dollar signs. He chose to rename himself Fake Chaos to break away from how weak and unloved he felt as Leopold Butters, kind of becoming the ultimate version of the Professor Chaos alter ego. Chaos was born out of self-resentment, feeling wronged by the world after the boys rejected him as Kenny's replacement, since they thought Butters was just sort of a loser. And in that same origin episode, Chaos was fed up over a lack of recognition when the town didn't really notice any of his lame schemes. Chaos is simply Butters' desire for attention, personified and cranked up to an 11, fueled by years of childhood trauma and treatment by others as a social outcast. Now, Vic Chaos is exacting his revenge upon the world by swindling anyone and everyone he can out of their money through puppet dump schemes, spreading the ideals of NFT bros everywhere without lifting so much as a finger. A short conversation with an inmate resulted in Butters taking the man's entire life savings. He's truly a beast that can't be stopped. However, what's telling is that Butters used his millions to help Kenny ascend to the status he was at before his death, funding his experiments. And later in this special, Butters is quick to give in to Cartman's demands after being threatened just like when they were kids. This shows, to me at least, that Butters is still seeking after the validation of the boys in his adulthood, buying friendship with money, which will always be kind of sad to watch. Though I believe he mainly gravitated towards Kenny, as he considered him his best friend as children. And yeah, Kenny always talked the least shit as, well, you know, Kenny barely speaks at all. Ike was absent from post-COVID and unfortunately doesn't have much of a role to play here, but what we got to see rocks. Ike seems to have either moved out of state or travels for work, as he's shown dealing with massive flight delays at the airport, and I mean massive. Now wearing glasses, a sweater the color of his iconic pajamas, and rocking the mustache soul patch combo, Ike has grown up to speak fluent Canadian. And by that, I of course mean he talks and enunciates like Terrence and Phillip. That's about all we get. But what do you think Ike's doing with his future career-wise? Comment down below, I'd love to see what you all think. And that brings us to the time travel tomfoolery the boys partake in to save their friendship, which concluded with a shootout for the ages and a 2000s-esque montage set to a Kelly Clarkson song that's still stuck in my head, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. So, paving the way for everyone's new futures, let's take a look at Stan, who becomes a part of the Space Force as a pilot. He just got back from Mars? Kind of a random career outcome, and I can't think of anything that would have inspired it, aside from that one episode where they sent a whale to the moon, so maybe that left a big impression. Stan is on good terms with his father again, which means he's no longer behaving like a miserable dick who's just a mirror of everything he hated about Randy. Sharon and Shelly are still alive, as Stan never set Integrity Farms on fire, sparing Shelly's life as a result. Speaking of Shelly, she seems to have mellowed without losing her spirit. You love to see it. And although Stan is still single at this point in the new timeline, he seems to be hooking up with Wendy here and there, which may lead to something bigger down the road. You never know. We're not given a boatload of insight on Kyle's new future career-wise, but due to something Butters says in the scene, I'm inclined to believe he's still doing his online counseling startup. Which makes sense, as I stated in our previous breakdown of the Timeskip, that's right up Kyle's alley, as he's always been the compassionate voice of reason character. I definitely can see him wanting to help people for a living in any timeline. What we do get to see for sure is that Kyle is now happily married with kids. They seem to have a good relationship with Stan, considering they refer to him as Uncle Stan, and are super glad to see him. There's already speculation that Kyle's wife could be Yentel, Cartman's wife in the previous timeline, which would kind of be cosmically hilarious, as it'd rub more salt in Cartman's very open wound. So Kenny seems to prosper in both timelines, you know, aside from dying in the last one, as he's still a beloved scientist, although we don't know what stage he's at in his career. We don't know if he's still loaded, as he didn't have Butters' funding this time around, though I imagine he still managed to score grants or loans elsewhere. Nevertheless, he won a Nobel Peace Prize for combining breast implants with dark matter, so we know he's putting his horniness to good use, I guess? So Cartman got the shortest end of the stick after making a grand sacrifice in the previous timeline. Just as I stated before, Cartman's change of heart was genuine, just ironic beyond belief. He truly loves his wife and kids, slipping back into his old ways once their very existence was in danger. Yet, it's the love for his family that ends up saving Kyle and the future as a whole, as Yentel convinces him to do the right thing and let the boys fix their friendship. Cartman's even the one who saves young Kyle, which was low-key incredible writing, when you think about how much weight their history holds. Since the gang never disbanded in this timeline, Cartman never corrected his behavior and thus never changed at all, winding up as a toothless, homeless drunk who lives out of a shopping cart, a shopping basket, and numerous garbage bags. He's actually going through it, looked down upon by his peers who have moved on from him. Cartman went from having the best outcome of the Core 4 to having the worst outcome. And while you can feel bad for him in the context of this special, come on y'all, it's Cartman. We don't need to recap all the heinous shit he's done throughout the series. I'm not saying I don't have any pity for this specific version of the character in the original future, because that is a Cartman who grew, but considering that the circumstances around that required everyone else to suffer, my sympathy can only go so far. Good looks though. So originally I stated that we didn't learn much about Wendy's future. I threw out some ideas, but this special clarifies that in the original timeline, she does have a doctorate's degree, and in the new timeline, she's still attending Harvard, which either indicates a switch in career path, or means she simply didn't go to Harvard, as she may have already been living in South Park before Kenny's death. In this new timeline, she's no longer married to whoever that guy was, spending New Year's with Stan on what sounds like more than one occasion. Sounds like this childhood romance is eternal. The only thing in the way before was Stan's lack of initiative and ambition. Again, you love to see it. Jimmy is still a successful comedian in this timeline, although it seems like with everyone making peace with one another thanks to the post-COVID special, offensive humor is back on the menu. And you can't have Jimmy without Timmy, who finally makes an appearance no longer in a wheelchair. He gets around with a walking stick, and he has an expanded vocabulary, speaking full sentences with a beautiful voice. This was a very heartwarming inclusion. I won't lie, it made me grin for a little bit due to how wholesome it was. Instead of being rich beyond belief in this new timeline, Butters is instead of managers at the Denny's Applebee's Max, which he seemed to have been working at for a long time, given Stan's remark. What's hilarious about this though, is that Butters' longing for validation now seems to be satiated as he feels as if he has a quote-unquote real job, making quote-unquote real money, showing his disdain for both cryptocurrency and digital jobs in this timeline, as now everyone else is doing it, he's no longer at the top, and he's no longer special. So now he can say he's working harder than everyone else as he's putting in physical labor. Honestly, I don't think Butters truly wins in any timeline. Randy seems to still have Integrity Farms in this timeline and isn't held in a home. At least, neither of those are mentioned. So I assume it's just business as usual for him. But maybe they're keeping it ambiguous, as they want to figure out what to do with Randy in the actual show's future. But we can't forget about the character who perhaps had the biggest butterfly effect on the timeline, who altered South Park history as we know it, LeBron James. In the new timeline, LeBron James refuses to continue work on Space Jam 2, leading to the movie getting canceled and Space Jam 3 through like 8 never being produced. Oh my god, Warner Brothers, please don't let it get that bad. I can't trust executives enough to let this be a joke and not have it turn out to be like South Park predicting the future with precise accuracy. Down with capitalism. Shout out to the goth kids. Or should I say goth adults? But as always, I want to know what you guys thought about the special. Who do you think had the best outcome? Who do you wish we saw more of? Let us know in the comments down below. And be sure to follow us at Roundtable Vids and at OffSharkVox on Twitter and Instagram. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe to the Roundtable for more great cartoon content. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna go watch Spider-Man. Peace out.